Constant slish 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 of it echoing back and forth off the 3 glass walls creates such a screen of noise that he wouldn't hear someone speak unless the speaker shouted or was in the shower with him. This voice is not a shout, but a murmur. The sting of shampoo blurs his vision, and the whirling steam further hampers him, but as he turns in place, squinting at the bathroom beyond the glass walls of the shower, he glimpses a hazy figure, someone watching him. Shocked by this intrusion on his privacy, he wipes at his eyes with both hands, sluicing the suds from his lashes. When his vision clears, no one is watching him, after all. He is alone in the bathroom, and the visitor must have been a figment of his imagination, a trick of light and steam. Dried off, dressed, he is suddenly famished. He eats the fresh strawberries and cream, the English muffin, the croissant, and the sticky bun with pecans. He drinks most of the hot chocolate, taking his time, savoring every sip. He's 15 minutes late for lessons in the library, but Mr. Mordred never expects punctuality. Harley has news. Mirabelle called from Paris. Crispin shakes his head dismissively. She can't be in Paris already. Well, she is, Harley insists. They left very early, Mr. Mordred says, but in fact they aren't there yet. Mirabelle called from Mr. Gregorio's private jet, somewhere above the Atlantic. She's on a jet, Harley says, thrilled by the idea. She says it's super great. Are you sure it was Mirabelle? Crispin asks his brother. Of course it was. How do you know? Just because she said so. It was her. I know Mirabelle. Harley is 7 and gullible. Crispin is 9 and feels that he is not just 2 years more mature than his little brother, but 3 or 4 or 10. Why didn't she call me? 'Cause she wanted to talk to me, Harley says with pride. She'd want to talk to me, too. But you were snoring your head off, or stuffing your face, or something, Harley says. I'm sure she'll want to talk to you the next time she calls, Mr. Mordred assures Crispin. Now what should we do to start? Should I read you a story or teach you some arithmetic? Harley doesn't hesitate to consider. Read us a story. As Mr. Mordred chooses from several books, Crispin stares at the horsefly birthmark on his left temple. He thought he saw it move just a little. But it isn't moving now. 11. Over dinner, December 3rd, the eve of Crispin's 13th birthday. Amity Onawa, formerly Daisy Jean Sims, also the Phantom of Broderick's, has put a plate of little tea cakes on the table for dessert. They are flavorful but not too rich. The dog begs, receives half a cake, and lies down to sleep. With her black hair, compelling blue eyes, and knowing attitude. The girl looks like a gypsy about to read someone's fortune, by the glimmering candlelight. So, Crispin Gregorio. That's not my name. Crispin Hazlitt. That's the name my mother used. And you never did. I did, but not now. Why not? I never knew any man named Hazlitt. So it's what, just Crispin? That's right. Travel light, huh? One name's enough. So, Crispin, what do you want for your birthday dinner tomorrow night? Whatever. I don't care. Got a walk-in refrigerator full of stuff. And for Christmas, they have an entire special department of delicacies down on the 2nd floor. Anything. It doesn't matter. Everything matters. She disagrees. He shrugs. Cocking her head, Amity asks, still got your deck of cards? Same deck, he confirms. Bought the night me and Harley met. You still do with it what you used to do? That's all it's for. Did you turn up the 4 6s yet, one after the other? Not yet. She shakes her head. You're a strange one, boy. Smiling, he says, not just me. With the small bankroll and the 8 gold coins that she had when she fled from that house of murder, Amity lived many months on the streets. She dressed tough, acted tough, and over time she became tough. In that year, she learns many things, one of which is how to fabricate a life. Any kind of dope is available, and fake but high quality ID is no more difficult to score than pot or coke. She has no interest in drugs, but she is determined to make Amity Onawa as real as Daisy Jean Sims once was. In time the police conclude that the missing Daisy must be dead. And she is dead to Amity, as well. Dwelling on memories of her former life is too painful to endure and dangerous. Her psychic moment with the scissors sometimes recurs in dreams, and she remains convinced that any contact with relatives, or even old friends, will be the death of her and them. After 6 months of sleeping in a bedroll in parks, in church basements, under bridges, she uses a bogus but convincing driver's license and social security card to rent a tiny studio apartment with a half kitchen and a minuscule bath. She needs to shower every day and to wear fresh clothes if she is to find a job and keep it. In the current topsy-turvy world, jobs are scarce, and if you know how to game the system, the dole pays better than work. Most street types she's met are grifters, and their favorite mark is one program or another of the Department of Health and Human Services, from which they finesse more than a single income stream. Amity, however, is a wide-awake girl. She knows that dependency is another word for slavery. Besides, in the long run, counting on Uncle Sam to see you through is like expecting to find sure footing across a sea of quicksand. On her first job, she spends 3 hours a day cleaning and chopping vegetables in a joint serving pretty good Mediterranean food, followed by 3 hours of bussing lunch hour tables. Soon she is promoted. She makes and plates salads and performs a host of other culinary chores. When she applies for an opening at Eleanor's in Broderick's department store, she is hired at once. She is only 15, but her IB says that she's 6 months short of her 18th birthday. After her time on the streets, she has an air of been there, and she can look anyone in the eye longer than they can meet her stare. In time she comes to see that Broderick's potentially offers more than a job. It can be also a home, and more than a home, a haven. Each employee has a personal locker with a combination dial-in, either the men's or women's change room, on the ground floor. Here, she keeps her purse and, in cold and inclement weather, her coat, scarf, gloves, rubber boots. Many keep their bag lunches in their lockers, but as a benefit of being on the staff of Eleanor's, Amity receives her lunch free in the kitchen at the end of the noon rush. Over several days, Amity brings a complete array of toiletries to stash in her locker: a hairdryer, a few t-shirts and sweaters, 2 pairs of jeans, socks, underwear. She keeps everything folded and out of sight in a couple of carry-alls, so that when she opens her locker in front of others, it doesn't look like a closet. Each day, at the end of her shift, she appears to leave, but she in fact deceives. She knows scores of places in this immense building where she can hide until Broderick's closes for the night, and the last departing guard has set the perimeter alarm. The first arriving employees, stockroom guys, guards, cleaning crew, and some front office types clock in at 7:30 a.m. to prepare for a 10 o'clock opening. But for the 10 previous hours, Amity has the department store to herself. 10 hours of blissful solitude and security. On Sundays and holidays, of course, this magnificent temple to disposable income is hers alone, all day and night. As the Phantom of Broderick's, by night lights on the ground floor, and by flashlight on the upper 3, she can shop for hours if she wishes, try on fancy dresses and other clothes that she will never wear in the world outside, and indulge whatever fantasies this vast realm of merchandise encourages. In the general manager's office on the 4th floor, there is a private bathroom in which she can shower. If she wipes it down with a squeegee afterward, the stall is dry only 3 hours later, and no one can know that she used it. The restaurant kitchen is windowless, so she can turn the lights on there to cook her meals. She usually eats at the desk in the chef manager's office while reading a book. Reading is her favorite pastime, as it was for Daisy Jean Sims. In certain fiction, she perceives truths that she rarely finds in nonfiction. Therefore, in her quest to better understand the world and the meaning of her life, she reads those novels that suggest a world of wonders, dark and light, forever unfolding for eyes willing to see. If she gets hungry for fresh cashews or fine chocolates, the nuts and candy counter on the ground floor offers a smorgasbord. She takes nothing but food from Broderick's, and she pays for it by organizing tables of sweaters and pants and other clothing that the day's shoppers have left disarranged, by better cleaning places that the store's own maintenance crews have left less than spick and span, and by making sure that Eleanor's, in particular, sparkles. During the 14 months that she has lived mostly here, she has kept her tiny studio apartment as a mail drop and a place to do laundry. Her days off are Sunday and Monday, but she leaves the store only on the second of those days. Monday nights, she sleeps in her apartment, and she yearns to be once more in Broderick's. She has chosen this way of living not to save money on rent, but in the hope of finding again the security that she knew before her family was slaughtered. Life on the streets has toughened her, but it has not restored the sense of stability and permanence that she once enjoyed. Perhaps even Broderick's can't give her back that most precious aspect of her childhood, but alone within its walls, she feels safer than she feels elsewhere, except on those occasions when Crispin pays a visit. Her only company is who she meets in books, as well as in various clothing departments, a community of mannequins, none of whom can rob her of her virginity or kill her. She enjoys over 380,000 square feet of living space, surely the largest home in the world, and the longer she lives here without incident, the more easily she can make herself believe that this place is not merely a home but also a fortress. The first time Crispin sneaked into Broderick's with his dog, before closing time, he might not have made it safely through the morning without setting off an alarm or being caught on his way out. Thanks to Amity Onawa, he now knows how to come and go with almost as much stealth as the spirit of a 9 times dead cat. And now here they are, friends for almost a year, and except for Harley, each of them is the other's only confidant. Over the final little cakes, Amity says, "I saw your mother at tea with some women about 2 weeks ago." "What, here?" "At that table," she says, pointing. "I thought you worked in the kitchen." "Sometimes now, if a waitress drops out of a shift at the last minute, I take her tables." "What did you think of her?" "She's even more beautiful than her pictures. And very sure of herself." "Don't ever serve her again," Crispin warns. "Serving one of them in any way, well, it gives them a hook in you. I think they can pull you into further and darker service, as if you're a fish on a line. I don't believe I'd be that easy. Anyway, I doubt I'll ever have another chance to serve her. Certainly not soon." I overheard her tell the other women that she and your stepfather were jetting off to his home in Rio the next day for an extended stay. No mention of her children, I suppose. She said you, Harley, and Mirabella were doing well in boarding schools in London. "Jolly good," Crispin says sourly. "Will you ever confront her?" "She'd kill me on sight." "Or you her." "I might. And now that Theron Hall is empty, a few staff will still be there, 3 or 4. But mostly empty," Amity persists. Crispin favors silence. She reminds him, "You told me once that something happened there that you need to better understand. Something you need to go back and see again." "Not yet. When the cards tell me it's safe." "Have you consulted them recently?" "No." "Are you afraid?" "Everyone should be afraid." After a long silence, Amity says, "There's a cool display in the toy department. You've got to see it." As Amity slides out of the booth, Crispin says, You mean now? I didn't know you had a busy schedule tonight. He gets up to follow her, and she points to the wall of tall windows. Look. Snow. So beautiful. With the dog between them, they cross the room and stand at the huge panes of glass. The first flakes are as large as silver dollars, and look, as soft as little pillows. The heavens shed their bedding on a city seeking sleep. Crystalline goose down spiraling through darkness, through the million feeble night lights of a civilization always one gone away from obliteration. 12. Crispin is 9, and under the influence of a malign spell. Following Mirabelle's flight to Paris. Only much later will he think of himself as spellbound, but whether that is the truth of his condition or not, he passes August and September that year in a curious state of detachment, with little energy for a boy his age. He reads books that he enjoys, but days later he can barely remember the stories. He plays board games and card games with Harley, but he doesn't care or recall who wins. He sleeps a lot, daydreams when he isn't sleeping, and finds himself some nights and afternoons in Harley's room, sitting bedside, watching his brother sleep. Mr. Mordred still homeschools them, but he teaches with less diligence than ever and requires of them no homework. Sometimes, Crispin feels as if the tutor does not intend to educate them, only to maintain a pretense of education, that there is nothing for which they will need an education. For a while, Harley continues to search for the 3 white cats, but by mid-August, he loses interest in that quest. Crispin sees little of his mother, less of his stepfather. Those infrequent encounters support the exceedingly bizarre perception he has that Theron Hall is much larger than its official square footage, and that it is growing bigger all the time. He sees much of Nanny Sao, both waking and in dreams. In the waking world, she is always affectionate toward him, and respects her role as a surrogate parent. In dreams, she is usually the same as in real life, though now and then a sudden wildness overcomes her, and she springs on him, tearing at his clothes, and nipping at his throat, without breaking the skin, all in such a way that frightens Crispin, but also strangely excites him. Sometimes the dream nanny looks exactly like the real woman, but at other times she will have one different feature, this time the yellow eyes of a lizard, the next time reptilian teeth, or scaly hands with beautiful pearly claws. Mirabelle telephones again from Paris, once in late August, and once in mid-September. She speaks with her mother, with Harley, with Nanny Sao, and even with Mr. Mordred. The first time that she calls, Crispin is sleeping late, and no one thinks to wake him. On the second occasion, he is in bed with the mysterious fever that never lasts more than a day, but that comes upon him every few weeks. When eventually he flees Theron Hall, he will marvel that so many clues to the truth of that place and its denizens were offered to him without triggering his suspicion, let alone his alarm. If he was spellcast, it must have been a spell disabling his ability to make even obvious connections, to reason from evidence, and to hold in memory proofs of the conspiracy in the web of which he was caught. 2 days after Mirabelle disappears, Crispin comes out of the miniature room and sees the matriarch, Yardina, crossing from the elevator to the door of her suite. She seems to be unaware of him, but he is struck by 2 things about her. First, although she still wears one of her long dark dresses, she moves quickly and gracefully. Gone is the hesitant shuffle of an arthritic old woman. Second, if her face was a withered apple before, it looks now, in the glimpse of it that he has, like a fresher fruit, the face of a woman 50 years old instead of 100. Weeks later, near the end of August, as Crispin is staring out a window, daydreaming, a limousine pulls up to the front door of the house. The chauffeur assists from the car a pretty woman of perhaps 35, wearing a tailored dark suit that flatters her figure. She oversees the unloading of many shopping bags and parcels from the trunk of the vehicle. The junior butler, Nell appears and hurries down the front steps to help the overburdened driver. As the woman precedes them up the steps to the front door, Crispin is struck by her resemblance to the young Yardina, of whom framed photographs can be seen on the piano in the music room and elsewhere in the house. If some grandchild or grandniece of Yardina's has come to visit, Crispin is not told about her, and he never sees her again until a night in late September. That he does not reach a disturbing conclusion about those two encounters is perhaps understandable. Less explicable, however, is how he could chance upon his mother kissing one of the housemaids, Proserpina, and fail to be thereafter deeply troubled by it, or even to remember the incident except now and then just before falling asleep at night, wandering the house one afternoon, not seeking three white cats, but in the grip of his peculiar conviction that Theron Hall has grown, and is still growing, mentally vague and half inclined to lie down and take yet another nap. Crispin opens the door to the sewing room and finds them in a clinch. Proserpina stands with her back against a wall, and Clarette presses hard against her, grinding her hips, their mouths locked. They are breathing as if something has excited them, and their hair is disarranged. Clarette's blouse hangs half unbuttoned, and the housemaid's hand squirms inside, as if searching for something. They are at once aware of the intrusion, but they are not in the least embarrassed to be discovered kissing. They smile at him, and his mother says, "Did you want something, Crispy?" "No, nothing," he says, and at once retreats, closing the door behind him. He hears a burst of laughter, both of them amused, mortified, as if he is the one caught in some transgression. He means to flee, but instead he leans against the door, listening. By the way, his mother tells Proserpina, the dates have been chosen. September 29th, the Feast of the Archangels, and then October 4th, the Feast of Saint Francis of Assisi. Proserpina says, "Good. One close after the other. I'm tired of this city." "Who isn't?" his mother says. "But I'm not tired of you." Crispin thinks they are kissing again, and he hurries away to the library. He spends some time wandering the stacks, looking for a book to read. If he remembers what he interrupted in the sewing room, he has pressed it from his mind for the moment, as if between there and here he encountered a hypnotist who commanded him to avoid all thoughts of women kissing. He believes that he is seeking an entertaining novel, one of high adventure, but the book he finds is in fact the one for which he is looking. A Year of Saints. He sits in a wing